Happy Friday, May 3rd, everyone. Hunter here again at Weather on the Go, and in today's weather forecast, we have more severe weather potential looming for the central but also the southern plains that got hit yesterday. We're going to be going over the hazards the storms could bring, the timing of the storms, and the complete breakdown of the severe weather setup. And we'll look ahead at the weekend forecast with your temperature and precipitation trends as well to get you to what you need to know for the weekend. And we are keeping close tabs on a multi-day severe weather outbreak looming from Monday, May 6th through Wednesday, May 8th. We'll go over the timing of the storms and the hazards that they could bring and the complete breakdown of that as well later on in today's weather forecast. Well, hey, if you are here this morning, this afternoon, this evening, whenever you're viewing this video, make sure to subscribe here to Weather on the Go so you can stay up to date on your weather forecast right at your fingertips. Again, if you are viewing this video, make sure to subscribe to the channel below. Also be sure to press the like button down below. It's the thumbs up button. It helps out more than you know. So let's go back to yesterday. On Thursday, May 2nd, we had several tornadoes across the central, but especially the southern plains, especially here in western Texas near the Abilene region. We actually had a stronger tornado on the ground for about a half an hour yesterday, and we had a total of 10 tornado reports here, even some hail and wind reports stretching up toward the Midwest and Ohio Valley, toward the Chicagoland area near Peoria, Illinois. So a very busy day it was on Thursday, May 2nd. Now we look out the door this morning at our temperatures, and it's a little bit cooler up here to the north across the high plains into the upper Midwest and then back to the west across the Pacific Northwestern U.S. You can see a lot of cooler temperatures there. Warmer start to the day across the east and the southeast. Temperatures near the Gulf Coast already into the low and middle 70s, and that will be a higher springboard of which to start because our temperatures will be well into the 80s, if not the 90s again for Florida and the southeast coast this afternoon. A nice spring-like day across the country though, especially into the Midwest, the Ohio Valley, Great Lakes region into the 70s. A little bit cooler to the north here. Across the high plains in the Pacific Northwest, temperatures there into the 40s and 50s with some refreshing air. Now, all that heat and that cooler air as they come together will be leading to severe weather potential today. Once again, we have a bimodal threat of a slight risk of severe weather. The northernmost threat in the yellow, that's a level 2 out of 5. Again, a slight risk across southern Nebraska, northwest Kansas, and far eastern Colorado. The southernmost slight risk here in the yellow is in West Texas again, and we could be looking at more wind over 60 miles per hour in those areas. Very large hail, especially down here into West Texas again. We had baseball, even softball size hail yesterday down in Texas. And then we do have the threat for tornadoes again into West Texas. Again, a 5% tornado risk, but that 2% in green, the green shaded area extends further north into the Texas Panhandle, Oklahoma Panhandle, far eastern Colorado, west central Kansas, and even southern Nebraska as we go through this afternoon and this evening. Let's look at the setup here for severe weather. Dew points will be advecting north into the 50s, 60s, even 70s. Very rich dew point environment down here into the Texas Hill Country, and that will actually contribute to some very strong, if not extreme, instability. Over 4,000 joules per kilogram, folks. That's really what's driving the significant hail risk down here today. We do have a weak low-level jet this afternoon. It's around 40 to 50 knots. The strongest up here near Nebraska, but we'll start to see that strengthen and become a little bit more widespread in coverage with that low-level jet this evening, up over 50 knots, helping to foster that tornado risk. So looking at the significant tornado parameter values today, you can see from southern Nebraska through Kansas, Oklahoma, Texas here, we can see those values peaking around 17s today, but that's really mainly to the south. I think we're going to see a lot of these values between 1s and 5s across the board. So let's look here at the timing of the storm. So this morning, not really seeing much happening, seeing that warm, moist advection moving north off the Gulf of Mexico into the central and southern plains, continuing warm advection further north as we go through the afternoon. We may spark an isolated storm early to mid-afternoon, but I think it's late afternoon into the early evening hours. That's really when we're going to start to see storm initiation, and these storms could pack a punch again across west central Texas, similar areas to yesterday into the Abilene region, Midland, Texas, back here toward Lubbock. and then they'll push eastward here. And then we have another separate area to the north of some storm activity this evening from Nebraska down into northwest Kansas and perhaps far eastern Colorado. That could bring the threat for a couple tornadoes, but mainly damaging winds and hail. That MCS, that mesoscale convective system, will then propagate further east towards Omaha, Des Moines, and down toward Kansas City as we go into the wee hours of the morning on Saturday morning before sunrise. So we'll be watching for a wind and hail threat there going into early Saturday morning. Rainfall amounts will be few and far between. If you get under one of these bigger complexes of storms, sure, you could be seeing over an inch of rain up here near Omaha, maybe Des Moines, and then down here into parts of Kansas like Salina, Kansas, and Dodge City. Few and far between further south. It just depends on if a supercell thunderstorm moves through your area. Then you could be seeing over an inch of rain perhaps through your Saturday morning. Looking at the temperatures this weekend, we have a frontal boundary sitting across the upper Midwest down here into the southern plains. Behind it, temperatures will be into the 50s. Ahead of it, more spring, summer-like air with 70s and 80s, even some 90s mixed in near the Gulf Coast on Saturday. That will continue as we go into Sunday, although we start to warm up across the north a little more on Sunday. 70s up here into Montana and Wyoming, 60s across the high plains and the upper Midwest. It's been so cool lately, so at least a warmer day is on tap there on Sunday. We have to deal with more severe weather this weekend. Saturday, marginal risk from Chicago all the way back through St. Louis, Tulsa, Little Rock, Oklahoma City, and the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Another slight risk out here into southeastern New Mexico and West Texas. Looking at Saturday's threat here, you do see some storms through the day, but I think it's mainly as we go into the nighttime hours, we'll see a complex of storms evolve with initial supercells growing upscale into an MCS, a mesoscale convective system across western Texas. That will propagate toward the Dallas-Fort Worth area early on Sunday. That could leave us with a level 1 out of 5, a marginal risk of some wind and hail, and maybe an isolated tornado threat there on Sunday across east of Texas, north Texas, stretching up into eastern Oklahoma, west central Arkansas, and northwestern Louisiana there. So from Little Rock, Fort Smith, down there toward Shreveport and the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and perhaps toward Austin, Texas. So you can see that complex moving through as we go into Sunday time frame, mainly bringing the threat for heavy rain, damaging winds, and hail, but an isolated tornado threat will be possible. That will start to weaken and move further off to the east. Look at all the snow falling across the west here, folks. Yes, the mountain ranges out west will be getting a lot of snow here, but look at all the precipitation in general as we go through the weekend. A lot of precipitation out west. This will mainly be in the form of snow. We'll show you in just a moment. Across the south and southeast and up the east coast here, we're going to see some decent rains, especially for Texas Hill Country, through Dixie Alley, through the Carolinas there, into the Mid-Atlantic and the Northeast. Areas over an inch of rain just through this weekend. Look all the snowfall out west, folks, here into the Cascades, the southern Cascades there into Oregon, the Sierras into California, over a foot, if not over 2 feet of snow, and then several inches of accumulation there in the Rockies. So definitely the cold air aloft is going to be helping us out west with the snowfall. And that same storm system on Sunday, bringing all the snow and that cold air aloft for the snow, is actually going to be causing trouble for next week. A multi-day severe weather outbreak looms Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, May 6th, 7th, and 8th. And you can see the trough here starting to eject into the Rockies and the Western Plains on Monday. Downstream from that, we have a ridge. So we have warm, moist, and unstable air out ahead of this thing. And this is going to lead to a significant day of severe weather. The Storm Prediction Center already confident here 4 days out in an enhanced risk across southern Nebraska, central Kansas, and northern Oklahoma. And I actually do expect this risk to even intensify further and kind of expand as we do get closer there on Monday. Tuesday, the system gets a little bit more negatively tilted here. Still downstream ridge, so we're going to be tapping into that warm, moist, and unstable air. And already 5 days out, a slight risk of severe weather from parts of the Midwest, the western Ohio Valley, down here into the mid-Mississippi Valley. And then as we go into Wednesday, May 8th, we continue to see this trough out west, ridge downstream again, warm, moist, and unstable air. There we go. Again, another slight risk, day 6. This is 6 days out from the lower and middle Mississippi Valley there and getting into the southern plains. We'll definitely be keeping an eye on that. Let's go back to Monday's risk. Remember, we have a slight risk from Nebraska all the way to North Texas, but that enhanced risk across southern Nebraska, central Kansas, and northern Oklahoma. Let's look at the setup here on Monday. So we have a negatively tilted tilted trough, or beginning to become negatively tilted there on Monday. Pretty strong mid-level jet. Dew points advecting all the way up into the Dakotas, into the 60s there, folks. Very nice dry line as well. We have a lot of drought ongoing back into the southern Rockies and into the Four Corners region, and that will help to get those instability values climbing, especially with southward extent through Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas. That's where the highest values over 2,000 joules per kilogram will be on Monday. Very strong low-level jet will only get stronger on Monday night. You can see over 65 knots there from Iowa back through Kansas City there into eastern Kansas, western Missouri, and down into Oklahoma and perhaps northwest Texas. We'll be keeping a close eye on that because initial supercells Monday afternoon will grow upscale into a nasty squall line Monday evening with damaging winds, large hail, and some tornadoes embedded within that. And even after dark, folks, this is after midnight even, we could still be seeing severe warnings going strong from Iowa down into Missouri, eastern Kansas, and parts of Oklahoma, and maybe a little bit more conditional in Texas, but maybe a storm or two there as well early Tuesday morning. Then as we shift eastward into Tuesday, places like Chicago, St. Louis, getting down to Little Rock here in Paducah, Kentucky, Indianapolis, these areas all at risk for severe weather on Tuesday. Even stronger mid-level jet. Look at that. The left exit region of the mid-level jet up there into the Midwest, and that is actually going to help to advect the mid-60 dew points all the way up there into Wisconsin, folks. Yes, into the Badger State there, and that's actually going to lead to some weak but moderate instability higher further to the south, and you can see a pretty strong low-level jet during the day, over 60 knots there, especially into northern Illinois as we go into Tuesday. So I think a pretty strong line of storms going to be developing there across the Mississippi River there as we go into Tuesday afternoon, shifting east towards Chicago, St. Louis, and Indianapolis through the day, even Milwaukee as well. And then you can see those storms really continuing through Michigan, Indiana, western Ohio, through the mid and lower Mississippi Valley Tuesday evening, even early Wednesday morning entering into the Tennessee Valley as well. So a very busy day it will be on Tuesday. And then as we go into Wednesday, slight risk again around the Springfield, Jefferson City region there in Missouri, Little Rock, Fort Smith, and Fayetteville, Tulsa, down here to Dallas, Fort Worth, Texarkana, and Shreveport. So another large populated area at risk as we go into Wednesday as well. But let's look at the rainfall totals going through next Friday, a week from today through May 10th. And you can see some very heavy rains from the Mid-Atlantic, the Ohio Valley to the Tennessee Valley, and all the way back through the southern plains here, and a couple pockets up here into the northern Rockies as well, and then across the west coast as these storms just keep coming through the next week time frame. So we'll keep you covered here on the weather forecast. Make sure to subscribe here to Weather on the Go so you get the latest weather forecast right at your fingertips. Again, if you are viewing this video, make sure to subscribe and press the like button. It definitely helps out more than you know, and I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their Friday out there.